It's time for This Week in WordPress, episode number 141, entitled It's Elephants All the Way Down. This week I'm joined by Paul Lacey and also by Koch and Bernhard Gronau as we talk about the weekly WordPress news. Well, what have we got to talk about this week? There's an awful lot about Gutenberg, what's new in Gutenberg. There's also a release candidate, that's release candidate 2 for WordPress 5.6. Gutenberg's site editor has seen a bit of an update, and there's a block navigation plugin which provides a better experience to move your blocks around. What is full site editing? We find out. Cloudways and RunCloud. There's a comparison on the internet this week and Paul Lacey talks about that. There's a theme specifically for blocks. It's called Bosco and we discuss that as well. Also, would you like to have Google Docs style commenting in your Gutenberg documents? Well, there's a plugin to make that possible. We also talk about a couple of events, the first one being the Gutenberg Times live Q&A, which is coming up soon, and also underrepresented in tech, a website for those who feel underrepresented. It's all coming up next on This Week in WordPress. This Week in WordPress is brought to you this week by A/B Split Test. Do you want to set up your A/B split tests in record time, like in a couple of minutes? Use your existing pages and test anything against anything else. Buttons, images, headers, rows, anything. And the best part is, it works with Elementor, Beaver Builder, and the WordPress block editor. Check it out and get a free demo at absplittest.com. Hello everybody. Thanks for joining us once more. This is, I'm going to get it right, it's This Week in WordPress. It's no longer the WP Builds Weekly WordPress News, but thanks for joining us. I can see there's quite a few people on the line at the moment. If you want to say hello and mention who you are and where you come from and all of that in the comments, that would be really nice. Best way to do that is to go to either wpbuilds.com/live. That enables you to use YouTube. So in other words, Google. If you're logged into Google, you should be good to go. Otherwise, you can go to facebook.com/wpbuilds. That's the page. And if you're in our Facebook group, perhaps you can make some comments over there. We're using a platform called StreamYard, and it enables us to hopefully put those comments up there. But yeah, nice to have you guys on the line. But more importantly, I suppose, is just very brief introductions from the three guests that we've got with us this week. I'm joined this week by Bernhard Gronau, Paul Lacey, as always, and Koch. And just very briefly go around. We're trying to keep this to a minimum now. Bernhard, tell us who you are.
Hello, I'm from Austria, working on my own little company and helping out with pods and the Beaver Builder add-on, of course. And we'll talk about it today.
Yeah. If you forget to mention your pods news, please interrupt me before we finish. That would be very helpful. And Paul Lacey, as always, last week Paul had the shortest possible of elevator pitches. Let's see if he can exceed the brevity of that this week.
Paul from Dickiebirds.
Okay, great. Next week we're totally doomed. It's just going to be Paul Lacey. Yeah, thanks, Paul. That's marvelous. Dickiebirds.studio. Let's mention that. And finally, Koch. How you doing, Jan?
Hey, I'm doing great, thanks. I'm Jan from the WPAgencySummit.com.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're getting good at doing the brief introduction. Yeah, like I said, if you want to just sort of say hello in the comments, because we're now repurposing this audio and making it into a sort of like an audio podcast, it doesn't make a great deal of sense for us to sort of read out every comment as it comes in. But if it comes up on the screen and if it's apropos to the conversation that we're having, we'll certainly mention that. Let's just mention who we are. We are WP Builds. We release quite a little bit of WordPress content each and every week. You can find us on wpbuilds.com. If you want to hear more from us, wpbuilds.com/subscribe. You can join our Facebook group of over 2,700. And I keep saying it and I believe it. Very polite WordPress users. For reasons unknown to me, we don't seem to have the incendiary debate that I seem to discover elsewhere online, and I'm very pleased about that. So if you're going to join our group, please make sure you are polite before you type anything in, which I'm sure you will. But you can sign up to our newsletters here. Now, we've shifted our newsletter over to news.wpbuilds.com. This is where you can find out all of the news that we're going to be talking about. This is last week's. We'll release this week's, the one that we're mentioning today. That will come out tomorrow at 7 a.m. UK time, and there's an archive of those. You can see it just here, This Week in WordPress video archive. And I think that's it. That's everything I've got to say in that sense. So we'll crack on. Paul, if it's okay with you, Paul is officially the sort of co-host of this podcast. I'm going to take the first three, and then we'll go over to Paul. So Jan, Bernhard, feel free to interrupt at any moment. The first one, if you can see it on the screen, we're over at make.wordpress.org. We've got What's New in Gutenberg. This came out on the 2nd of December. Gutenberg, to everybody's, well, either delight or chagrin, is getting talked about all the time. And little iterations seem to be happening each and every week. And this is no different. There's a couple of things to mention here. We have this full height alignment. If you were to be looking on the screen, you can see that there's like a toggle button where you can take an image and you can fix it as the background, and you simply click a button and it occupies the full height. It's a nice little feature. It's the sort of thing which we've had in page builders, I guess, for the longest time, but now we've got it in Gutenberg. And you can also now have font size support in the code block. I guess that's quite important. So if you've used the code block to demonstrate your wonderful code throughout the internet, you can now alter its size. So two pretty minor little things, but quite important, I suppose. I don't suppose anybody's got anything to add to those. If you do, go for it. But if not, I'll just crack on with the next piece. No, I didn't think so. Okay, in which case we'll stay on WordPress.org. WordPress 5.6 release candidate 2. This is just to say that as we get closer to, I've forgotten the date. It might even be tomorrow. Is it tomorrow or Wednesday? I can't remember.
So it's the 8th.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, it's the 8th. Great. Yeah, I thought it was. So you don't really have a lot of time now. So forget this piece. Let's just move on. But anyway, needless to say, if you're a noob to WordPress, this is how the system works. Essentially, in the background, a bunch of core contributors and volunteers and so on create the release candidates, the sort of like the working version, which isn't available in a regular WordPress install. And the idea of pages like this is that they update us to tell us what's going on, what's been improved. And really, I think it's an advertisement to try and encourage you to get on board and help the team to improve it. So, we're on WordPress 5.6 release candidate 2. Give it a few weeks and we'll be on WordPress 5.7 something or other. But anyway, go and check out those pages on WordPress.org to see what's going on. This is the sort of same thing. This is from Justin Tadlock. If you don't know, we talk about WordPress Tavern quite a lot. WordPress Tavern is my go-to resource for anything WordPress. Largely, it's Sarah Gooding and Justin Tadlock, who I don't know if anybody saw, who's moved house this week. He's got himself a nice new pad I think he's in Alabama, I think. And he underscores what I've just mentioned with the full screen cover block and so on. So if you want a more in-depth explanation of anything that's happening in the WordPress world, go to wptavern.com and you can see, I still don't quite get this. I'm pointing to something on the screen, whereas the font sizes are called thus. They're called default, small, regular, large, larger, and custom. I'm still not
maybe
convinced.
that is the desperate try to help people get font sizing right, because it's easy
Yeah.
to have like 18 pixel, 22, 25, just mix up font sizes.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just a try to keep them in guidance and then check.
It doesn't
and it makes sense. I don't know how they did it, because maybe it's based on the default font, so it's maybe not even a fixed large and larger, but it's maybe in AMs or whatever to have related to have a proper styling to lead people that way. I don't know.
What you can't see on the screenshot is that it never ends. It goes larger, larger still, very, very large, even larger than very, very large, super and so it goes. No, I just don't quite understand why it says custom. I'm presuming if you put custom in, you can then choose, but I haven't seen.
Choose a number.
Does it have syntax highlighting, by the way?
I don't know. On all of the screenshots that I've seen, I've only seen something like that, basically plain text. So I don't know. Actually, if anybody knows, that would be really lovely too, because that would be super useful, right? That would, if it could just automatically do that. But yeah. Oh, Bernhard, I think is frozen.
No, he hasn't. He's just pulling.
No, I thought he got cut off halfway through. No, he's still there. Sorry, maybe it was me. Yeah, he's definitely still there because he's now dancing on the screen, which is quite nice. Okay, so that's it really. A few minor things happening in Gutenberg, WordPress updating, but do keep your eyes peeled because WordPress in the next 24 hours is going to be updating. That is one of the key moments of any WordPress user's life, isn't it? Are you going to be sitting there, guys, tomorrow, just sort of clicking the refresh button? Do you go through your sites one at a time? Do you try one out? Do you wait a fortnight until everything's settled down? How does it work?
I'm so careful with everybody. I would never just update something.
No, that just happens. The server takes care of it sometimes and sometimes not. But there are backups, so I don't care.
Do you really, Bernhard? Do you really?
You are brave.
You do them all straight away. That is very brave, actually. That is brave.
Not every site, but most of them, especially friends and family, I don't care. They're autopilot, and I regularly check on them. Or I get, this didn't work. I'll take a look. It depends on the customer. And especially with the security updates and stuff like that, I prefer to have them than have them not.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But there is a way to just have the minor updates applied automatically, though, I think.
Yeah, I'm more careful with major updates. That's right. But plugin updates and stuff like that, most of them are on autopilot because the tools I use, rarely there goes something wrong. I never had any issues because it's not that
touch large amounts of wood ever so quickly, because now that you've said that,
I'm knocking on wood right now.
Something catastrophic is going to happen tomorrow. I've become a bit more how to describe it. I just wait now for like a week. I just watch what other people say. Yeah. Unless there's some enormous.
Yeah, but with bigger updates, of course.
Follow update 5.6.1. That's when I'll update.
Yeah. Which will probably be in a few days' time. Go on, Paul. You were saying it sounded quite cavalier, but I'm guessing you were joking. Do you literally update them all?
I think it's a good idea in this current time to be a bit more cautious because the WordPress core is migrating away from one version of jQuery to another major version of jQuery, and it's a 3-stage process. And I think this update of 5.6 is stage 2. And then I guess 5.7 will be stage 3. And I know for sure that stage 1 broke a lot of websites around the world. So there's a good chance that something else will go wrong. And, let the more cavalier people do it. And then, just especially at the moment, I'm a bit more cavalier about plugins because like Bernhard said, we tend to use a pretty tight set of plugins and there isn't, I think even when it comes to, I can see Bernhard's wearing his Beaver Builder top today, and I remember the most controversial Beaver Builder update wasn't even a problem. It was like they added like some kind of notification bell there once or something.
Yeah, that's right. I remember Bellgate.
That's the biggest drama I can think of in Beaver Builder plugin update history. Nothing actually broke. It was just like, what's this bell?
I remember that. I'd forgotten all about that, but I remember. Yeah, I'll be sitting there waiting, dawdling, giving it a week just to see what goes on. Be interesting to see.
It was their response, wasn't it? Because all the Elementor people were like, "Look how many updates we get," and like the Beaver Builder people were like, "Well, we want the bells and whistles." So they gave us the bell.
They gave you the bell. Oh, that's good. I like that. Yeah, comedy in the first 10 minutes. Awesome. Yeah. We can tell. Okay. Very helpfully, Jan, whilst we've been nattering, has posted a plugin which will take care of the code highlighting, the syntax highlighting.
Posted in the Facebook comments as well.
Oh, thank you so much. It's over at GitHub. It's mcas/code-syntax-block. I don't suppose anybody watching has played with that, but if you have, that would be marvelous to tell us whether it works or not. But thanks, Jan. Paul, I think we're going to be handing over to you now. If you want to introduce the next little batch of bits and pieces.
It's funny segue in a way because you've got this code syntax block plugin which improves again the core part of WordPress. That the first question you ask is, does it do that? And the answer is no. And then, but someone else in the community has made a plugin that does do it. And I really wonder about, I'm really thankful for the people who write these plugins that fix the things that will probably end up in core, because you think, I guess there's not really a massive financial reason they're doing it, because if it's a really good idea, it will get taken on and appear in core. So, thankful to those kind of people. Also, so the one I was going to segue into was this block navigation plugin. It's called the block navigation plugin. It's by someone called Alvaro Garcia, and this is an article on as usual WordPress Tavern by Justin Taglock. And I think this is funny because it shows how we rely on WP Tavern, because this article is Justin discovering a plugin that was been out for 2 years. And I've only just found this plugin. And we're like, we'll cover that as well then.
I really liked it as well, though. It was, the article is perfect for this time. Anyway, go on.
So I'll explain what the plugin is and what the article is. So Justin is just saying he's found this really, really useful plugin. And what the plugin does, it's called the block navigation plugin. It massively improves the ability to see in context the full structure of your block layout in your editor view. So there is in the Gutenberg editor, there is a kind of button that you can press and you can kind of see a list of all the different elements. But I know this not everyone is watching this, so if anyone could see what we're looking at on the screen at the moment, they would see that it's not that you can't really make out what the context is. For instance, it's just a whole load of paragraph blocks usually that it shows you there. Whereas the plugin that is created by, I just check his name again, Alvaro Garcia, the block navigation plugin, gives you a really wonderful user interface to see the context of your whole editor. And it makes great use of space. So again, it's just something that we cover almost every week, is that the Gutenberg editor is really struggling for its use of space. And it seems to be against the concept of using pop-ups or overlays and stuff like that, from the main button that you press to choose a block with a small pop-up that comes into the middle. And even then, when you click on, for instance, block patterns, you end up in a left-hand sidebar. So you're kind of jumping from the right to the middle to the left to the middle to the right all the time. And what's really nice about this is that the designer of the plugin has been developing this over the last few years and improved it. And you get a really fantastic overview of your document. I don't know if you can scroll down a little bit, Nathan, and see if
I can, yeah.
For those who are watching.
This one?
We're
looking at the current one there, this one here.
You can't really see what's going on there, whereas this screen that we can see now, you can see that it tells you how many characters you've got, it's got a word count and how many headings, and you can see all your different things and you can drag them around, which is really, really useful.
That is standard WordPress though, isn't it?
This one is, yeah, the one that we're looking at here is.
Right now. The information panel, but the one that Paul is referring to reminds me of the navigator in Elementor.
Yes.
Where you have all the sections, and what I love about that feature is you can stick it anywhere on the screen. So you can keep it open while editing, and then you can just jump back between sections.
This one that we're looking at the moment is the sort of like the standard WordPress one, but you're unable to interact with it. So so on the one hand, it's really good because it displays really clearly that, you know, there's a title here, and more importantly, it tells you what the title is, which for the title is probably not that important. But when we get down to like the H2 and the H3 level, it may very well be that you've got an article and you want to reorder it quickly and you want to find the right bit that you're looking for, and that looks great, but you can't do anything with it. It's just for display purposes only. Now, this one that we can see now is what we've got, and that's useless. That you can interact with. You can drag that up and down. So it's called the list view, and all you can see is there's an image at the top and there's a bunch of paragraphs, but it doesn't give you any indication as to what is contained within the paragraph. And so this one, where are we here?
You've got to go to the top of the article and click on the actual plugin, and you can see it in the header graphic what it kind of looks like. But it's kind of combined the draggable ability of what Gutenberg has with that summary view. So you've got to kind of mix.
You're going to have to excuse me, guys. I'm going to have to go for a second because there's somebody who's just walked into my house and shouting hello, and I don't know who it is. And I'm going to go and find out who it is, and I'll come back.
You have your co-moderator, no worries.
Yeah. So I can't scroll up Nathan's screen at the moment, but if you were able to go and check the block navigation link that is just cheekily just sticking out the top of the screen there that we can't click. If you were to click that, you would see what the user interface is of there. And like Jan, you said, it's similar to something like what you get in Elementor. It's similar to what you get in Oxygen. And you can see in context with kind of indents and stuff, your whole structure. It's really, really useful if you're kind of duplicating things and moving stuff around. So, and I know that, having tested the block editor with some of my clients recently, doing that is something that they like to do a lot. They get a layout, it's sorted, they duplicate an entire row of stuff, and then they move it around. We can probably move on to the next one. We can't get it on screen, but I think I can pull it up on here anyway. So there's 2 articles that we're looking at. One of them is called, I think it's by Munir Kamal, who basically does. Is everything okay, Nathan?
Yeah, it was the most. I will tell you, because it is quite interesting. About an hour ago, a guy delivered a package, and it had our address on it, and I opened it up, and it was a Hoover, like a vacuum cleaner, and I haven't ordered a vacuum cleaner. Anyway, the guy who delivered it just let himself in and started walking around downstairs trying to find it.
Wow. Why?
You need 2 really big dogs.
DPD is the company that just did that. So I shall be on the phone later asking why he's allowed himself to come into my house. That was most peculiar. Anyway, sorry, Paul.
So, right, I thought you were going to say you had a big package delivered, and it turned out there was an imposter inside the package, and they snuck in like a Trojan horse or something.
No, the funny thing was the address was perfectly correct. It was addressed to my house. So I did receive it, because I just assumed maybe my wife had ordered something, but neither of us had. Anyway, he just decided to come and take it back.
I had to take it back. I had a similar thing. Oh, I see. Right. I had a similar thing with a takeaway food the other day. That I had some takeaway food, and it came a lot quicker than I thought it was going to. So I was in the garden with my dog, taking her out for use the toilet kind of thing, and I came back into the house, and there was like a takeaway bag inside my lounge. I was like, oh, how did that get in there? So I was glad that they did that, but it was still.
It's a bit unnerving that the guy decided to let himself in. I mean, I normally leave the door on the latch because the kids come home at this time of day. So just before we start recording, I'll go down, open the door, and but that was kind of weird. I've never had that before in my life. Scary. And he was much bigger than me.
I would get security cameras and stuff like
Anyway, let's get back to WordPress. That drama is
it was exciting.
Where were you at? Were you on this one
too?
Yeah.
Okay, so we were looking at the 2 articles that are quite similar. One is by Munir Kamal, who does so in one side of WordPress is the entire core team, and then on the other side of WordPress doing everything else is Munir Kamal.
Yeah, basically,
He's doing a lot of stuff around the block editor and Gutenberg and pushing things forward, and seems to be always super optimistic about everything. So, which is really nice, because he's always kind of looking at what is possible and kind of thinking about the future. It's nice. So it's a really good article that you should check out. And he has a video as well talking through the experience of creating a full website using the Gutenberg editor. The best thing to do is really to watch the video, and having watched it, you can see the possibilities. You can also see how when you're editing it, it looks nothing like a website at all. It's nice to have Munir talking you through, but you think, wow, if I this and came back to it the next day after I'd had a lack of sleep or something, I would not know where I'd got to, because nothing in there looks like a website that you're actually editing. It's an interface, but it's a really good insight into where we're at by someone who really understands exactly where we're at this point with full site editing, and is completely separate to the whole project. We have another article by the article is by Justin Tadlock, I think.
I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. I'm on the
one. Yeah, it's the block-based Bosco.
Let me see if I can find that. There we go. This one, WP Tavern, block-based Bosco, second full-site editing theme lands in WordPress directory.
Yep. So this is a similar kind of thing to what Munir has done, except that the person who created this, I think it's called Frank Klein.
Yeah.
Works for Human Made, and also I think is in some way associated with Automatic. The reason I think that is because some of his previous themes that are in there are attributed to Automatic rather than him as an individual. So I think Human Made and Automatic have some kind of relationship anyway, as far as I'm aware. So he's released a theme, a really super simple theme, based on a theme that he created in the traditional way back in 2014 called Bosco. He's got a couple of different themes. He's chose this one because it's very simple, and he's kind of a different approach to Munir in that he's talking about this from doing it for the first time. So he's got a theme that he's created years ago, and he's documented in an article, which is linked from Justin's article, in an article called What I Learned Building a Full Site Editing Theme. And he talks you through the challenges, the possibilities. He's quite optimistic about the future, but he's very frank about some of the, and that's not a pun, very frank about some of the challenges and the shortcomings that definitely are faced trying to create a fully block-based theme. So anyone, it's really nice that he's done that though, because it makes a point, I think Justin makes a point that anyone who's thinking about trying this, it's a really good thing to read first, because you can read this and know all the pitfalls that you are likely going to be falling into and not have to worry about them. Whereas Munir's article is more kind of, he knows all the stuff already. So he's kind of showing you how it's done. So it's really nice to have those two articles in the same week, really. So, yeah.
It is fascinating. I think we've been really spoiled, haven't we, with certainly since the advent of solutions like Beaver Builder and what have you, where what you see really is what you get. And it's just sort of, that is the expectation that I've got now. And although I'm a big proponent of Gutenberg and I can see the path forward for it, it still is kind of quirky that we're in the situation where something which you described, Paul, as if you had a bad night's sleep and came back to it, you wouldn't really know where to go from there. And that is, I mean, I know that wasn't the purpose of it, but it seems that would be the desirable place to get to. But it feels like that's not where we're trying to get to. It looks like the block editor is never trying to get to the point where exactly what's on the screen is what you're going to have. And probably it's constrained by these bars on either side, because everything's always going to be super narrow. I'm on a 15-inch MacBook, and when I've got the WordPress admin sidebar, plus I've got Gutenberg, and I've got the sidebar on the right, and something's happening with, I don't know, the sidebar. I've got this tiny little gap for editing in the middle. Whereas if that exact same screen used with Beaver Builder, I can see the whole thing, literally all of it. You invoke the pop-up or the pop-out, whatever it's called, which has all the tools in it, and I can drag that. If I want it to be over the left, I move it to the left, and just everything slides underneath it. Just seems like that's where we want to get to, but we're not getting there. And I know that Bernhard's wild west, I think we're still there. But lovely to see people pushing the boundaries. These two articles, as you said, really nice, coming at it from sort of different directions. And this is where it's going. I was having a chat with
a nice question in the Facebook chat. Sorry to interrupt, Nathan.
No, please.
Sean asks, is Gutenberg going to kill Beaver Builder and Elementor? Fight.
Yeah, that's that.
I think it will take a chunk out of their business, because I think there'll come a time where it's good enough for most people, and if there's a decent enough set of tutorials out there and you can achieve what you want to do, I think it probably will, take some of those customers, but I don't suppose for a minute it's going to take them all.
I don't think it will take away from Elementor or Beaver Builder, at least if they stay ahead or iterate on what's already there. I think it will pull from others maybe, and enable people to build better sites without any additional tools, like somebody who had just used the normal editor and now can use Gutenberg. For them, it's an improvement. But I don't think.
Yeah.
I think it's a different audience. Like Beaver Builder and Elementor have a different audience. I just recently saw a video where it's become very clear that some designer-focused people maybe like Elementor more because they can do more with it, because you can almost every CSS thing, you can this and that and over there. It feels a little bit messy, but it works and it allows you more freedom. And then you have the Beaver Builder for the more experienced, maybe developer-focused minded guy, or for people who like stability and stuff like that. Gutenberg will always be there for people starting out. Maybe the likes of VP Bakery or however you call them will go away and vanish, because there's no real advantage for them. Hopefully. Yeah, and some other page builders will still play their niche role, I think, because the whole business is increasing. So I don't think it's really about the competition. It's about getting your niche and your share of the market.
Yeah. It feels to me like when full site editing comes along, I think that'll be enough for a significant amount of people. You know, they've got a site, and I don't know what the statistics are, but I'm imagining that still WordPress is used for creating posts by a lot of people who log in, create posts, click publish or schedule, and then log out again. In other words, they're just updating content on a sort of calendar scheduled basis. And for that, if you can style the the main navigation, if you can add your logo, and if you've got a footer which is site wide, and that can be done relatively easy with a block. And to be honest, that's good enough, isn't it? I've got 3 horizontal blocks. I'm going to put the menu in there in the footer, and I'll put a logo over there, and I'll put some copyright text over there, and my menu, here's the navigation. And then I never need to look at that again. That's going to be fine. But I think the likes of Paul and probably Bernhard, I'm sure Jan as well, we've just got spoiled by this idea that every single page can be utterly bespoke and amazing. And most people don't need it for that.
This is Elementor.
Yeah. Flame wars beginning.
I'm actually trying to build a page with Gutenberg right now. And I don't like it.
Okay.
No,
I will pursue it, but I don't like it.
Have you installed any of the third-party additional block packs? The Cadence or the Qubely or the
Cadence is on there, and I'm using a Cadence starter pack template.
Okay.
So that I'm not starting from scratch, but I'm just working on a very extensive blog post, which will probably end up around 10,000 words, and that really is messy.
Okay.
But it's messy in any editor, I would assume.
Yeah. I'm making quite a lot of use of reusable blocks just because of the fact that a lot of the content that I produce has got the exact same structure. So, a podcast episode has a shortcode where the audio player goes, and I just copy and paste the actual MP3 URL, and then it's got the same text over and over again. And for that, it's absolutely brilliant. You just drag in a reusable or click a reusable block, make it what is it? What's the word for it when you make it editable or I can't remember. Anyway,
I think editable.
Make editable, yeah, and then try not to click save because you've just then overwritten it with this week's piece of news instead of last week's. But for that, it's brilliant. It's really good. I used all sorts of SaaS apps in the past to try to achieve what Gutenberg now can do for me. I'm very happy with it.
I'm convinced that Gutenberg isn't going to, and the full site editing isn't going to make a dent in Elementor or Beaver Builder for at least 3 years. That's where I'm at. Unless the only way I see it making a difference is that if a third party, like Team Elementor or something, have got a secret project where they're basically saying, okay, we've figured out a way to use the Elementor UI that creates block layouts for full site editing, and then that would be viable to me. That would be like, that would get people waking up. I think that Beaver Builder and Elementor are constantly onboarding new customers, and some of them go out the other end and move on to something different. And the ones that are moving on to something different are often the really techie ones. Like, for instance, if you see a lot of people in the GeneratePress community, a lot of those are quitting Elementor and Beaver Builder because they love what Tom Osborne does with his Generate Blocks plugin. But having watched some clients struggling to create simple layouts. So, for example, I cleaned up and fixed, it took me ages, a client layout. They got a shop thing going on. So they're for a Christmas page, they got a bunch of different things and linking off to different websites. You can buy this, you can buy this, you can buy this. And they had a bunch of images, and then a text under each image, and then a button under each image. And so they used column with 2 images, then they put another 3 columns in and put the text.
No.
So basically all the columns were totally messed up in responses.
Yeah.
And that didn't occur to them to worry about that.
Oh no, because it just looks fine on desktop, doesn't it?
It looks fine.
They're all stacked perfectly,
But is that an issue with Gutenberg? Because I had a friend do the same thing in Elementor just this weekend.
Yeah, I'd say that it would probably be more obvious to the general people in Elementor they got that wrong. because you are looking at the front end view and you've got the button to switch you to tablet and to mobile, and you'd be like, oh, why is my button completely nowhere near that image now? Whereas when you even in generate blocks, when you switch between the different tablet and mobile options, you see no feedback in your editor. And often you can forget that you're in that tab because you're not seeing any visual feedback or anything. I don't see that like the average user will make that choice. I think that there will be it will just be one of the choices that some of the people take to go down that route. But I think that the other plugins will still keep onboarding people that read an article like what we're going to talk about in a minute about RunCloud and Cloudways, and see someone says, right, what do you want to use? You've got the easy one, the stable one, or the really powerful advanced one. So, the easy one is going to be something like Elementor. The stable one is going to be like Beaver Builder, and then the really advanced one that you've got to work really hard with will be to stick with the Gutenberg editor. And the pros and cons of each will be less bloat with the Gutenberg editor, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that just the mass of people who use WordPress are not going to get on well with the full site editing as it is, unless someone steps in and makes it different.
I think this is worth mentioning. So we've got Peacher who's watching. Thank you, Peacher. So she says, it's not like I build that many websites, but when I do, I don't even touch Gutenberg. I can't get used to it. Bear in mind that in a design career spanning at least 2.5 decades, I have used so many design tools. This one I just can't fathom. No, it's almost like a car that's half built. It's the wheels turn round,
like
but you're gonna get wet.
But I don't get it, because UX and UI, like Pickett tells wonderfully sometimes, isn't a new thing. It should be part of every product about how we approach that. And I don't know, Wild Wild West Gutenberg, I don't know, because they seem to have, I don't know how they started, if the whole stuff works in the background, but it seems there is a missing link sometimes, or I don't know.
I think Paul and I, sorry.
Yeah, that's it.
No,
sorry for ranting.
I think that's okay. Sorry. I think Paul and I had a conversation. Maybe it was me and you. Maybe it was David Walmsley. I can't remember. And it occurred to us that maybe it would have been better just to buy out. Automatic got fairly deep pockets. Just to buy out something like Beaver Builder. I think probably now they couldn't buy Elementor even if they wanted to.
but imagine the waves that will make if Automatic buys out Beaver Builder.
No, this was going back when they launched Gutenberg, 8 months prior to that. So sometime in sort of 2017 or something, just bought Beaver Builder and said, this is what we're going to develop on top of. Clearly a controversial comment, but...
Lee Jackson's got a very relevant comment.
Yes.
Thanks for bringing that up, Paul.
This one, the one that we're looking at now.
Yeah, Lacey, we both don't count. Just the
two
guys below
us. For those
us.
of you that, it's the second tier row, isn't it? Lee Jackson saying, so Paul and Jan are my man crushes. I'm not afraid to he's actually written, I'm not afraid to admin this, but I'm sure he meant admit this. This is therapeutic. Thank you. We aim to please. Lee, lie down and tell me about your father. Right,
he knows how I feel.
Okay.
Paul? The next article is actually, as it looks like we've got all the Mavericks from Cloudways here. So
what's going on?
Brent is missing.
Bonfight.
Is Brent here as well? Because Brent's one of the new Mavericks, isn't he? So
Brent is the latest addition to the team.
Yeah.
Hang on, tell us about this then, because I'm always interested. Because this team, it seemed like it was a fairly solid little. So hang on. We're talking about Cloudways first. We're going to be looking at an article called on WP Shout called Cloudways versus RunCloud, an honest review. But Lee Jackson, who's on the call, and Peacher, who's on the call, and Jan, I very often see you doing stuff in the Cloudways, on Cloudways live streams like we're doing now. What is that program? How does it work? What's the benefit? What's the purpose of it?
It's called Cloudways Mavericks, and the purpose is that we provide value, quote unquote, however you want to define that, to the WordPress community.
Great.
So we do that by hosting weekly UI and UX reviews from Cloudways users, where they can submit their website, and then Lee, Peter, and I share our thoughts on them. We do that by interviewing guests. We do that by creating written form content. Peter has been working on a UI and UX project with Cloudways recently. We launched the partner program, the agency partner program, which Paul is a part of. So that is really, really exciting. And essentially, it's just not about selling Cloudways. It's about educating the WordPress community and sharing knowledge, really.
Is it something that is it sort of paywalled around? Because I mean, I get the emails and I can watch those events. Do you have stuff which is sort of like paywalled? If you're a Cloudways customer, you can.
It's all free.
No, it's all available. Right.
It's
just philanthropic stuff. Just using a bunch of talented people to disseminate knowledge. Right. And on that note,
Peter had a great comment for that. That sums.
Oh, thank you. What does she put? Oh, is it this last one? We just blabber on a daily basis on a number of platforms. Excellent. I know this feeling. The article in question is WP Shout, and it's called Cloudways versus RunCloud, an honest review. So I'm guessing it's fair to say that Cloudways and RunCloud do a very similar thing. Perhaps there's a few edge cases where one service does one thing and another service does another. So putting these things head to head does seem like a decent thing. And Paul, I know you've taken a read. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it's a really good article. I do trust the people from WP Shout, because they've created some really good courses and stuff in the past that are very, show you how to do proper theme development in the traditional sense, how to do proper plugin development. And I know that they would go to a lot of the events and those sort of things. So they've always wrote really nice articles that are just completely seem to be very honest. And what this article is really good at doing is showing the nuanced differences and similarities between something like Cloudways and something like RunCloud, because they are similar, but they also are fundamentally different as well. And so you get an idea reading this article what you're getting into if you've been listening to the hype about RunCloud, the hype about Cloudways, for instance. And from my perspective, reading this, I basically agree with everything that they've said in this article, because I spend over $300 a month on Cloudways. I spend over $100 a month on servers via RunCloud. I'm a Cloudways agency partner. Is that what I am? I'm in the partnership program, which is fantastic. I get an upper tier of support and stuff like that, and I get a discount as well, which is cool. And and as
for can I just interrupt you there? Do you get that because you consume a certain amount of their product each month, or is that something?
An agency, I mean, Jan can say more about this. From my perspective, as an agency, if you spend a certain amount of money, there's different tiers of this new thing that the Mavericks team have basically designed with the RunCloud, the Cloudways team. And depending on, so if I was to spend a lot more money, I could get even more cool things and stuff. But it's like I like this article because I've got associations with both organizations. I know people in both of the companies. Like I say, I'm on the agency partner program, which is totally free to me and anyone else who is spending a certain amount of money. So it's just a bonus. And then as for RunCloud, I was kind of unofficially, and probably I don't know if I'm not unofficially anymore, like a brand ambassador. I never really did anything, and then COVID happened and stuff like that. So, but I know people in both organizations have got associations with them, and I use both of those products. And I read that article, and I completely agree with the use case for the different. If you want it a bit easier, then go with Cloudways. If you're a bit more techie, but you're not that techie, then RunCloud is worth getting into. And then they do a great cost comparison that kind of shows that if you had 10 sites or one site, so in theory, Cloudways is cheaper with one site on one server. RunCloud gets cheaper as soon as you have more. Then it talks about the different tech stacks. So at the moment, both the products, both RunCloud and Cloudways, are both improving and catching up with each other on different things where they're ahead. So Cloudways, I'm sure, is working on an Nginx stack purely. It might even have it already. RunCloud already has that, whereas Cloudways has things like integrations with email for sending transactional emails, and RunCloud doesn't have that yet, but they're doing it. And so there's this pros and cons. But essentially, Cloudways is different because you buy your servers via Cloudways when you buy a server. So if you're kind of nervous about things, you can feel like I've got one place to talk to. If there's something that goes wrong, I can talk to the Cloudways team, especially as an agency. Whereas with RunCloud, you can talk to RunCloud and they will support you in more or less exactly the same way, but they're not necessarily obliged to do so. It does say at the end of the article as well, if you really want hands-off, none of them are a good choice. You should probably go with Kinsta or something like that.
Right.
But the cool thing is that the guy who wrote the article has migrated from SiteGround. So he's kind of put SiteGround behind him, which is all of us more or less on that journey get to that point where we put shared hosting behind us fundamentally, and we move to something else. And if we're interested in tech and value for money, we tend to go for VPSs with either Cloudways or a RunCloud or something like that. If we want hands off, we go with WP Engine or Kinsta. So that's all I'll say on that. I mean, great article. I like them both. It's horses for courses.
The problem I think with this kind of technology is that if you're just beginning, it's almost impenetrable to read through because they're matching each other and they're trying to get parity for feature set. Although, as you've said, Paul, because you know the ins and outs much better. There's one thing which one has and one thing which another one doesn't have. But from the outside, it would take me a really long time to figure that out. So an article like this really sort of surfaces that really quickly. So yeah, I'm glad that you like that one as well, and I'm sure the guys.
And one thing that makes this article stand out for me is that it's not selling any of these. Most often when you see these web hosting comparisons, they try to sell you on both because they get affiliate commissions for both. And this one is just a really, as they say, an honest review. It's really an unbiased review.
So you're looking to go to wpshout.com/Cloudways versus RunCloud and honest review. What date was it published? 30th of November.
And there are a few others that do stuff like that.
Yep.
First comes to mind like SpinUpWP from the guys behind the MigrateDB, stuff
That's
like
right,
that. Yeah. And another one which is a little bit more known around devs, I think it's GridPane, which is, I think I would place it in between Kinsta and Cloudways, or I don't know, or RunCloud, more RunCloud because but they're more expensive. So, and there are others too, or even use your own VPS locally hosted with Plesk or other stuff. So it's sometimes all of those options are a little bit better than just shared hosting somewhere if you're going to do a little bit more than just host your blog. I mean,
yeah. Always nice to read an honest review of these kind of things. And just putting two up against each other is really helpful to me because often it's like six web hosts. You just get lost. But just two, comparing them, this feature against this feature, one at a time. Very nice. Very good. Yeah.
One thing that reminds me about this article is that it's similar to the one that Frank Klein did about creating a theme. You can tell that this article isn't written because the author has decided to weigh up the pros and cons of each one, and then has done deep research, and then come up with and knows their tech as well, so they understand it. About RunCloud, I will say that I did see in the Facebook group that they're releasing this week the incremental backup module to RunCloud, which is something that Cloudways has had for a long time, and was something that would hold a lot of people back from jumping to any kind of panel that wasn't Cloudways, having like an incremental application level backup, which is a really nice feature. As for GridPane, I don't understand what GridPane is actually, quite honestly. I don't know if you know what it is, Bernhard, but I know people that work there, but I don't understand what is it? Is it a panel?
Which one? The spin up GridPane. It's basically the same like RunCloud or SpinUpWP. It's just they have a tech stack that gets deployed on a server you provide. And in the end, that's all of them do. So you get a server at some point. With Cloudways, you just get a server via Cloudways. So they purchase it for you. I'm not sure if they allow you to provide your own server. I didn't look at Cloudways in that area.
Nope,
but so they don't allow you to take your own server. But with SpinUpWP or with RunCloud or with GridPane, you can even enter just a server you have staying at home if it's on the internet, or you have bought it from any local provider and let them configure your server. So it's like
I had Patrick Gallagher on from GridPane on the podcast. I don't know, it must be a year ago now, and I don't know if they've pivoted at all since then. But the USP at that point was as few clicks as possible to get the whole thing going. So in other words, just one memorable thing was the fact that you've logged into GridPane. In order to set up your WordPress website, they don't ask you for a username and password. They just provide the username and password that you've already given to GridPane to log in over there. And it's just that was the premise, is just find an area where you can save a few seconds and implement it. And I don't know, to be honest with you, I haven't really heard a lot of them. They were very noisy for a long time. Yep. And it's probably just the circles that I'm moving in. They don't seem to be making quite the noise that they were this time last year. I don't know why.
Yeah, they had some really weird, really strong Black Friday deals going on last year.
Right.
I didn't see any of them this year.
The lifetime, I think they were back, the lifetime deals on Black Friday. I think they had them again.
Okay, so maybe WP Shout will have to do the 4 or 5 hosts article in the near future, including the ones that we've just mentioned. I'm gonna shift it over a little bit because the time is sort of running out. The next one, total change of direction. Although we are back to Gutenberg. My ideal out of any editor basically is that it is Google Docs. That's what I want, right? I want it. That is to say, if I'm writing text, I want it to be Google Docs. I have this fabulous service called Wordable, and it's a SaaS app. And basically, you install the plugin over on the WordPress side and allow it access to your Google Drive. And you go into WordPress and you press a button, and it finds every article that you've written in Google Docs, and you just press import, and it sucks in all the H1s and H2s, and it works remarkably well. And the intention for that is that because you can collaborate so well in Google Docs. I mean, it's just a joy to write collaboratively in Google Docs. And I think the intention in the next couple of years over on the WordPress side is that the ability to be able to concurrently edit things is hoped to happen. But I make use of quite a lot of comments in Google Docs. In other words, I'll send something to somebody and expect a bunch of comments back. And so we've got this lovely new plugin. It's called, what's it called? It's called Multidots. No, it's not. It's called Google Docs style Gutenberg block commenting. And it simply does that. It enables you, if you've got a Gutenberg document, to mimic the commenting element. And so if you were looking at the screen, you can basically highlight a piece of text, press the comment button, and write something which attaches itself to that piece of text. So I don't know, you might, for example, wish to change a word and you want to send that over to your editor. And I just think this should be in core for a CMS where for most people writing is the point. This would be absolutely fabulous. How
much load will that add to the website?
Yeah, a lot, I'm sure. Yeah. I don't know, in all honesty.
But I agree that the collaboration with comments in Google Docs is exceptional.
Yeah. Yeah, yep. I mean, can you imagine? Do you remember the first time you saw that? The first time you actually saw somebody typing on your document? I mean, if you're anything under the age of 30, you'll just be like, yawn. What? This is. But for the rest of us who had to like send things via literal floppy disk in the post, and then wait 5 days for it to come out. And then Microsoft invented like modest collaboration. You could save comments and send it over the internet and so on. And now we're just spoiled. And I don't know if there's a CMS which does this already. I think it must be on the server side incredibly intensive, but that's the promise. And it just feels like a little plugin like this gets us a little way closer to it. So yeah. Okay. Oh, look. Yeah, we got another comment about another bunny shell.
Yeah, just started Googling it.
There's another thing to add to the list. But yeah, I don't know if you guys collaborate on documents very much. I do all the time. Yeah. You just give up.
And just use Google Docs and use the result to put into WordPress.
Right.
While you can do many stuff with WordPress, it isn't always a good idea to do it.
Yeah. Well, certainly at the moment, it's a poor relation, but it'll come, I'm sure. But I was reading the other day about how many photographs Google process each day or something along those lines with this Google photo that's sort of shuttering the free uploads. And, they've just got the manpower, haven't they? They've got the computers sitting there. They can cope with any number of docs, whereas your little server, your little shared hosting server is going to get hammered if you start to do collaborative documents. Anybody want to add, or shall I quickly move on? Okay, in which case I will quickly move on. I got contacted by a couple of people in the community this week, and I did promise that I would mention the things that they put in my direction because I thought they were worth mentioning. This, oh goodness me, look at that, there's a great big pop-up. This first one came from Birgit. I hope I've pronounced your name, Birgit, correctly. There's a live Q&A, and if you click on the link, you'll have to wait until tomorrow morning unless you can Google this. Basically, it's not a web page, it's a Zoom link, and the topic it's just a nice event that I think I would like to be part of. It's a case study, the making of the open source story by Yoast, with blocks, and it's just exactly that. You can see it here. We're thrilled to have the Yoast partner and CTO Omar. How do you say that? Is it Reese? And blog team lead Will Kallebeck. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your names, on the Gutenberg Times Q&A. So it's like a webinar, but it's all about the open source journey. So I thought that was worth mentioning. And the last one that I wanted to mention, this one came from Michelle Frechette. This probably open up an interesting conversation or can of worms, whichever way you want to look at it. This is called Underrepresented in Tech, and I believe that's the URL. Yeah, underrepresentedintech.com. And it's a website designed by Michelle Frechette. Paul, do you remember who else it was? Ali Nimmons. Ali Nimmons, and possibly some others. It seems to have the support. I don't know if they're backing it financially or providing, I don't know what they're providing, but WP Buffs, Gravity View, Termageddon, and Sentry, who I think Michelle works for. And the intention is that if you are underrepresented, if you are part of a community which is underrepresented, you can submit a profile to suggest that you would like to find work. And if you are minded to provide opportunities to people who feel themselves to be underrepresented, you can do that over here. I've never seen anything quite like this before. It's such an interesting idea.
And Michelle is just somebody who just, whatever she's involved in, she's always just giving and helping people. I mean, she works for GiveWP, and it's just somebody who the community is lucky to have involved. I don't know Ali Nimmons personally at all. I only know Michelle, and like I say, just one of those like stars of the WordPress community, just doing so much good stuff for a lot. It must be a lot of her personal time. I know she's involved in different organizations, but I bet a lot of this is her personal time invested in this kind of.
Yeah, she just wants to level the playing field. I'd probably just read a little bit out. It says, are you a member of an underrepresented group working in tech? Submit your profile above and we'll ask you a series of questions. I confess I haven't done it, so I don't know what the questions may be. Will help us index you in the database. Once your submission has been approved, you'll be added. You will get an email with a confirmation. We're happy to change your profile if you need us to. No longer looking, let us know. And then the flip side of that coin, do you have a company or project or event that you would like to enrich by involving more underrepresented individuals? Select find contributors above, choose the specialities that you require for this opportunity. You'll be met immediately with a filtered database of profiles. Contact the individual using the contact information provided in that profile. So I don't know who qualifies for that, for filling it out. But anyway, there you go, underrepresented in tech.
I think you can get to you can click on find contributors there as well. Click on that and you can tick on the different categories, and then it will show you a list of people who you could hire. I like it because it's just there's no with kind of marketplaces and stuff like that, there's always a business motivation, financial motivation between all the marketplaces and everything. And this has got a different angle to it. It's this community project. It's nice.
Yeah, it is nice. One thing that I think Paul dropped off our list this weekend, which we may want to come back to next week, is the admin overview. I think somehow we managed to not put that on. Did we miss that one? I think we did. Oh, well, let's leave that for another week. I've got nothing else to add. That's perfect timing. It's 3:05.
What about the pods updates?
Yeah, somebody remembered.
Good grief. Yes, right. Okay. So
for people,
full disclosure, Bernhard helps out on the pods project, and he's dropped me a URL somewhere, which I'm endeavoring to find. No, he hasn't. You just want to take the stage and talk about it, do you?
Yeah, there's no, because I guess we are lacking a little bit of communicating within the team of pods, because community runs stuff, and if there is no person who is really that big of a spokesperson, or I don't know, it just doesn't happen. But Scott posted a little bit of updates last week into the Slack channel of pods, where everybody can join. So if you have any questions or want to help out, just feel free to join our Slack channel. It's just slack.pods.io. It's just simple, and then you can join it. And we're making very good progress on the 2.8 release. So I think it's around 300 to 400 hours of developers already poured into it, because there is a full rewrite going on to have everything working with React for the user interface. We already have that partly for the dynamic field views, like the relationship stuff, if anybody uses it, my personal favorite. And that's not counting what Scott does himself, or support, or whatever is going on besides that. So, and we hope to have a release better soon. You never know what happens, especially with bigger rewrites, so it's hard to tell. And this lays the groundwork for features in the future, like repeating fields and stuff like that. So I always say we've already have that with relationship fields. It's kind of a loop field, just the content is stored in a different custom post type. So there you go. It's most of the time, I think it's even better than to have looping fields, because the content is separated like you would do it with a database table. So there are cases where that doesn't make sense, I guess. So it's good that we have the chance to implement that in the future.
If I wanted to go and find out regularly where all of this stuff is updated, what's the URL for pods updates?
Yeah, I mean, there's the blog, which gets not really a comment. Just pods.io.
Okay.
And if you want to support pods, it's friends.pods.io. And I'm posting in the private chat, and you can copy and paste it. And to join Slack, it's just slack.pods.io.
Okie doke. So that's the main URL, if it'll come up. Ooh, I've just posted it in about 16 different places. That was kind of weird. Pods.io is the main URL. And if you wanted to become a friend and help contribute to the project, it's friends.pods.io. And if you want to join their Slack channel, Slack.
Yeah, and that enables stuff like the blocks API, which is coming, the groups admin UI, so you can group your fields. That's currently possible, but just you need code for it, so nobody really uses it. And that's to help out people who are maybe not that developer focused.
Okay, thank you very much. That is that's some good news coming out of Pods 2.8, coming very, very soon, one would hope. We'll knock it on the head. That was This Week in WordPress. We'll be back next week, 2 p.m. UK time. I don't know who my guests are. It will no doubt include Paul Lacey and at least one other person. You guys, if you want to just sort of stick around for a few minutes, we'll have a little post.
Oh, there's something we should say as well, that we are higher quality, and maybe not the content, but we are visually higher quality this week.
Yes, that's right. The quality of the debate and conversation, largely driven by me, is of equally, the usual mediocrity. But the quality of the video has gone up this week. Like I said, we're using StreamYard, and I've become less of a miser, and I've decided to pay for their top tier, and it comes out in 1080p. Slightly disappointingly, though, Jan said right at the beginning they only allow 720 on Facebook. So
Jan's looking really clear.
Jan's like in a TV studio.
Yeah, Jan is the pro here. We are all just, I know a little.
That's because I'm Lee's man crush. I have to look good.
No, but that was me as well. Oh no, it wasn't. It was Paul. I thought you said Lacey.
Sorry, Nathan. I'm sure.
I will never talk to him again.
I have a webcam, just an ordinary webcam. I'm imagining Paul's the same. I know that Bernhard's the same. Whereas Jan, you've taken it to the next level.
I'm using my iPhone as well.
Oh, you're using an iPhone, okay? Which is, it's still a modest camera compared to Jan. Has gone right. He's gone straight to the BBC, nicked one of their £50,000 cameras, and now what have you got? Go on, tell us, because some people have been
Sony A5100 with a Sigma F 1.4 16mm lens. I do have a video about that on my YouTube channel.
Oh, nice! You actually went to the level of like describing the setup. Oh, that's
I have this home office setup video.
That's a good video. Yeah, really good video.
Thank you.
Nice.
Still need to watch it. It's on my list. Har, har.
Well,
the funny thing is, I've titled the video budget edition, and the budget is 1.5K. So.
Take it for what it is. Are you pleased with that though? Do you see that as money well spent? I mean, are you obviously if like me, basically I'm on a screen 1 hour a week. That's it. The rest of it would be webcam chats with people on Zoom and things like that. And it's a toss up for me whether that's worth it. But I think you record yourself. You're more on the screen. Yeah.
I try to get a YouTube video out at least 2 times a month.
Okay.
And then I do webinars, at least 4 or 5 webinars a month.
Yeah.
So with that, I really value this. And you can easily spend like 5 times of what I'm spending. It's in terms of DSLR setups, it really is a budget version.
Okay.
But it's good enough.
It is good enough. It looks absolutely fabulous.
Our visuals, I can see the difference. You can see on mine a very small set of weightlifting equipment. It normally is too blurry to notice how pathetic it is.
Where?
It's by the fireplace. Yeah, it's almost.
Oh yes. Oh, I see it now.
Very light.
I thought it was the part of the fire that stopped you falling in.
No, it's so it doesn't even look like a set of weights. It's not.
It's like for an armadillo to lift, isn't it?
That's right.
Actual
but
weight.
you can't see in Bernhard's screen. The thing that we all know about Bernhard that nobody else does, that he's absolutely obsessed with elephants, and you can see it.
Oh, actually, there is one. There's one over his shoulder.
One to his left and one to his right.
Yeah.
They're everywhere in his room.
I'm not obsessed. I just happen to, always people bring you gifts and you don't need them. So it's like they don't know what to give you, and they just want to bring something. And at one point, it's okay.
Yeah, exactly. You must have suggested it.
I suggested elephants, and that might be related to my father because he worked at a company, and their main it was a bank, and like this one, can you see it? So was the elephant from the bank. And maybe as a child, I just liked it, or I don't know, whatever. And maybe I'm a little elephant myself. I don't know.
You're so very self-deprecating there.
That's
no, they're wonderful creatures. And I just told them, okay, we don't know what, just bring an elephant, and then you get some of glass and some of leather and some of like candles, and I don't know. They exist in so many different variations.
If anybody wants to send me a gift, please don't make it an elephant. Could it just be beer? Beer
I quite like Xbox, so let's go.
Send Paul Xbox games. Send Bernhard an elephant. Jan wants. I don't know what Jan wants. What does he want?
He wants Amazon vouchers for his camera.
Funko Pops from Marvel.
Oh, what?
Wait a sec. These are the figures.
Oh, did you see the way his camera?
That's the lens in action, by the way. That's why I paid $400 for the lens.
What? So that it does? Look at that.
Because it goes into this blurred background. Really, is a lens effect. It's not a software.
The thing is, what's strange though is I've met all 3 of these people in real life, and both Paul and Bernhard, they are quite blurry. You go up to them and there is this slight haze around the edge, but Jan's very crisp. He's much clearer. You can see him walking through a WordCamp arena. Anyway, on that
And if he runs up to you really quickly, he's really in focus really quick.
Yeah, straight away. I feel that we've probably exhausted everything that there was about WordPress this week. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to end the show for the second time. We'll be back next week. Thanks for joining us. Take it easy. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.